On Steep Point, the most westerly crag of Western Australia, there now stands a cairn, a memorial improvised from an oil drum. Evidence that from here, where no vehicle ever stood before, 5 young Australians set out on an expedition never made before. A journey across a waterless continent. Water is all important on this journey, but none more than this. Water from the Indian Ocean will be carried across 3,000 miles of scarlet barrenness in the 20th century's most unusual trek and emptied into the blue Pacific. This is the story of that trek. At the beginning, as for most of the journey ahead, there is no road. The last 100 yards to Australia's rim took a morning to cross. Now it takes an afternoon to recross.
Watch your back wheel. Just hang it gentle. Hold up.
Bare rock, gouged by sand and wetted by salt spray, tears at tires and rasps on steel. Already the vehicles are taking a battering. There is a whole continent ahead.
Hold up. Keep moving. Still holding that lock all the way. Still left lock. Stop right now.
No one has done it before. No one has even attempted it. Straight across Australia at its widest point. Further than San Francisco to Boston or London to Baghdad. Across a vast emptiness. Dense scrub thrives only as far as the salt spray blows. On the narrow crest of Steep Point, it's too high to see over, almost too dense to drive through. Only the sandy stump of Mount Direction stands clear. Here, the 5 who are pitting themselves against a continent step out to look back at the sea and on to the desert. Mike Leyland, cameraman adventurer, is the expedition's leader. He organized it all, and his wife, Pat, responsible for the food and its cooking, and so much more. Ted Hayes, the mechanic with a big job ahead. Malcolm Leyland, Mike's brother. As navigator, his job is to keep them on course where there are no roads. and Keith Davey, a naturalist and longtime friend. Among Keith's duties is to collect specimens from unknown Australia for the Australian Museum.
It's a big, big country that we live in. It's a big, big country, I say. It's a big, big country that we live in. And the good Lord made it that way. From west to east, it's a long, long way to Byron Bay. From Stick Point on the west, so very far away, 3,000 miles overland with hardly a track, through Australia's vast outback. From the coast we travel to the inland, where many an explorer faced death at first hand. Carnegie, Forrest, Warburton, big names, who tried to cross first the waterless plain.
From the Australian mainland's westernmost tip, Steep Point, the route lies through the empty spinifex plains of the Gibson Desert on to Ayers Rock, then the unconquered sands of the Simpson Desert, and finally to Cape Byron on the eastern coast. Across Australia at its widest. Steep Point is behind, but not far. At the base of its finger into the ocean is Crayfish Bay. These waters have not always been so calm. 4 centuries ago, Dutch seamen from the Spice Islands were driven ashore here by gales, and to this day, the mast of their long-forgotten ship lies weathered on the beach. All that is left of the stockade where the seamen fought and fell to the inhospitable natives. These sleeping stones witnessed the bloody birth of Australian history. Today, the only record of the massacre in Crayfish Bay is in bone, bleached by the sun and wind of centuries. The warmth of the ochre sand has preserved them, fleshless evidence of the fate of Australia's first explorers. Mike holds history in his hand. The Dutchman died from a native's club. And this native from a Dutch musket ball. The skulls may lie for more centuries on the deserted western beach, but the expedition must move on. It took 4 days to make the journey to Australia's Land's End and back. For this time, much of the bulky equipment was left with most of the supplies in a base camp a few miles from the coast. Sunlight was giving way to headlights by the time the Land Rovers returned. The first leg of the West-East Crossing expedition is over. All 25 miles of it. 3,000 miles and more lie ahead. Daybreak and the job of packing. Already the two vehicles and their specially built trailer are in country so isolated that everything has to be carried. There are no corner stores out here. Everything that might be needed has to be stowed, and that includes a motorbike. And there still has to be room for 5 people. What with chainsaws, tents, food, and fuel, the trailer is up to its 2-ton limit. First stop on the trek is Tamala, a sheep property at the head of Shark Bay. Here, 50 miles from their nearest neighbors, the Kramer family match their persistence against relentless nature to keep their flocks alive. These people contend with parching sun, searing winds, and the depredations of kangaroos, which they hunt in the cool of the evening to keep their hard-working sheepdogs in meat. For a West Australian stockman and a 10-year-old boy, killing dog food is all in a day's work. They take from a carcass only the skin and the haunches, meat enough to last a few days. Any more, and it would go bad long before the dogs could eat it. This is a quarry, a strange quarry at a place called Hamlin, where slabs of shell brick are cut from the ground. In the eons, while Australia lay silent and undiscovered, shells built up and compressed. Now they lie firmly welded, waiting to be cut for farm homes. The pioneers hacked their way through these shell walls in laborious hours. Now a chainsaw does the same job in seconds. The shell bricks are so light that 2 arms can lift what would need a crane in brick or stone. Here is proof enough that shells last as long as ordinary brick. This house at Hamlin has stood unchanged for 75 years. Cool in summer, warm in winter, as solid as walls of granite. Hamlin also has the best bore in the district. No need for pumps here. The life-giving water gushes from the baked ground, always fresh, always cold. On again, and for a few miles the bitumen of the Northwest Coastal Highway is a welcome relief. But in less than half an hour, it's back to the dust of the tracks leading east. east lies Calathera Springs, the wide-spreading property of George Latham, diligently guarded by Bridget, the pet donkey. Now, Bridget, stop acting like a mule. At Calathera Springs, the price of man's struggle to survive on the desert's fringe is all too clear.
It's a big, big country that we live in. It's a big, big country, I say. It's a big, big country that we live in. And the good Lord made it that way. 100-mile detour, not in the plan. The Calathera Spring by George Latham. Mules, sheep, galahs, cats. Ooh, what a strange abode, but a welcome sight on a bumpy road.
The livestock lives well here. There's plenty of food and water, but the desert is just beyond the fence line. George Latham's daughter Margaret shows Pat Leyland a prized collection of emu eggs. Aboriginal craftsmen, using a skill born of generations, carved these delicate patterns into the thin shells with the point of a knife. Perhaps long before the Europeans adopted it, the graceful black swan was the emblem of the awesome expanse that is Western Australia. The expanse proves too much for Malcolm's Land Rover. With the first of the desert roads and the added weight of water and fuel in the trailer, the rear differential shatters. This is serious. Mechanical trouble is only to be expected, but not so soon. There are spares on board, but this is no place to make repairs. Best head on a few miles using the front differential and make repairs in the next town. Hold it! There's the biggest goanna seen yet. And Keith Davey fancies it for a specimen. The big lizard thinks it's safe in the tree, but Keith can climb too, and he looks determined. All we need now is a photo for the record. Closer, please. That's better. Now smile. Like a dragon from the past, hidden in the wilderness of today. Well, not all is wilderness. Even here, where there's enough water for a brew of tea and enough open ground for a pitch, English tradition dies hard. Yes, it's cricket. The pitch hasn't much green on it, and the outfield is a bit rough and very fast, but the spirit is the same. The spectators haven't quite the facilities of a Melbourne cricket ground or a Lord's or a Yankee Stadium, but they are catered for. And they come from 100 miles around over dusty roads or empty air lanes to enjoy an afternoon at the grand old game. And after the game, what better than an evening barbecue? Not far from Nookawara Bush Cricket Ground are some Aboriginal rock engravings. Few people know of them, but one is Grazier John James, and he leads the way. Keith was told before setting out, if you want to photograph engravings, rub them over first with a soft stone. Reliable water brought Aborigines here centuries ago, and Afghan camel drivers 80 or 90 years ago. Since then, probably no more than half a dozen people have been here. So the rock markings are just as the natives left them. Inside the cave, which once sheltered the wandering tribes from chill night winds, the roof is a picture gallery. The red, ochre, black, and white in these symbols once had distinct meanings in folklore. But the meanings have vanished, like the tribes themselves. Welcome to Meekatharra, the first settlement of more than a dozen people on the cross-Australia journey. While Meekatharra's residents take it easy in the veranda shade, Keith and Ted labor in the midday sun to replace the broken differential. Even Meekatharra couldn't provide clinically clean facilities, but it is better than the bush as a place to make repairs. And the diff isn't the only thing to be repaired. Ted has toothache, and his doctoring is done in the traveling dentist's well-equipped trailer. A very well-equipped trailer. Fill her up, please. What'll she take? Oh, about 250 gallons? Even allowing for the few full cans still on board, that's a lot of 5-gallon cans to be filled. But it will all be needed soon, because ahead is the vastness of the Gibson Desert, and on its fringe, the ghost mining town of Wiluna.
Out on the fringe of the great Gibson Desert, there once was a town of great fortune, they say. 10,000 people had come there to settle. Now 10,000 people have all gone away. Wiluna, Wiluna, oh, what have you done to the wives and the husbands, their daughters and sons, to the men who have made you from sweat and from toil? For what? Just a shell and a big lump of soil. The pub on the corner is empty and bare, all knocked around and in disrepair. The doors are wide open, no welcome is there, and no one around to give any care. Wiluna, Wiluna, oh, what men who have made you from sweat and from toil. For what? Just a shell and a big lump of soil. Machinery rusted around the gold mine. The diggings have weathered the sands of time. The cars are abandoned, it seems such a crime. The T-model Ford is in need of a shine. Walluna, Walluna, oh, what have you done to the wives and the husbands, their daughters and sons, to the men who have made you from sweat and from toil? For what? Just a shell and a big lump of soil. Now up on the hill at the back of the town, there is an old graveyard with weeds all around. The headstones are tilted, there's nary a sound, as the wind blows so gently on this hallowed ground. Walluna, Walluna, oh, what have you done to the wives and the husbands, their daughters and sons, to the men who have made you from sweat and from toil? For what? Just a shell and a big lump of soul.
In the dry dust of Walluna Mission Station, the Aborigine children play, and their forebears talk and smile. Pastor and Mrs. Vaughn, who run the mission, had words of welcome for the travelers, and the children had smiles of curiosity. But the old men smiled only with their faces. They spoke in warnings. Beware of the Gibson Desert. Beware of the Gibson Desert. We used to live there, and we know. There is no water and too much sun, sand, and spinifex. Now we live in the mission, where there are trucks to carry us instead of burning our feet, and there's food and laughter instead of hunger and silence. The Gibson may be dry and dusty, but there are tracks of a sort, enough to keep a four-wheel drive vehicle moving. And there is wildlife. Once it fled the black hunters. Now it fears only a camera and starvation. Rain has fallen lately, and some of the creeks are still running. These water holes attract plains turkeys and other birds. Even this far into Western Australia, someone is wresting a living from the barren earth. Mrs. Linky, the owner of Carnegie, welcomes the 5 strangers who roll in from the dust. She offers them the use of the old homestead a mile or two away. Here, for the first time in 500 miles, there are some remnants of home comforts. Who would expect in an abandoned homestead in the desert such luxuries as a bath? Even if the hot tap does lie, a cold bath is still a bath. What's more, in the bathroom, there's a mirror. And in the kitchen, a proper oven. This makes baking a lot more comfortable and the bread a lot more appetizing. In the bedroom, such extravagance. A reading lamp and a bed. After choking and jostling on the Gibson's rough tracks, resting here with creaking bed and guttering candle is like holidaying at the Waldorf. East of Carnegie, there is nothing. The next human being is at Giles Weather Station, half 1,000 miles away. It's a journey as desolate, dry, and lonely as any in the world. This is the mighty Gibson Desert, the home of heat, spinifex, a few surviving mulga trees, and very little else. day after day is the same. The sun drives down, unhindered by clouds, searing the already leafless trees. Driving is a torment. Walking is impossible. Only insects can withstand such an inferno. An assassin bug. And dragonflies still hover in the heat haze. The road across the waste, if it deserves a name at all, is the Gun Barrel Highway. 8 years ago, when men and machines drove this track towards Giles in long, straight stretches linking horizon with horizon, they left this plaque. The tree has fallen now, but the plaque still marks their passing. The Gun Barrel Highway, surely the loneliest road in the world, reaches from Wiluna to Giles Weather Station and then on to Mount Olga. 8 years ago, the road was passable. Now, growth, occasional rains, and wind-scoured channels make it so rough that today's travelers often find it easier to smash their own path through the roadside scrub. Where the road is not too rugged, there's an opportunity to sight game for fresh meat. Malcolm spends hours on the hot metal waiting for a shot at a kangaroo. The sound of the shot seems to be swallowed by the spinifex and mulga, but within seconds, crows gather overhead, waiting to squabble over the remains. This sort of travel is hell on vehicles. Smashing a path puts a frightening strain on everything. It's no surprise when something snaps. But it snaps in the one place where no trouble is expected, on the trailer. And there are no trailer spares. Luck is riding with Ted, the mechanic. The camel dray spring has lain abandoned in the sand for years. It needs imagination as well as skill to improvise a splint in the desert. But Ted's got them, and the trailer can move again. The Gibson Desert, epitome of loneliness. In this torrid basin, the expedition is further from human habitation of any kind than at any time on its nation-spanning trek.
It's a big, big country that we live in. It's a big, big country, I say. It's a big, big country that we live in. And the good Lord made it that way. The Gun Barrel Highway, straight as a die, as if carved by a mighty hand. From way on high, it leads from Wiluna through to Giles, where weather's recorded for Woomera's missile.
Somewhere near here, just off the Gun Barrel Highway, the old survey map shows a tiny lake. No one has been here for years. Maybe it's dried out and vanished. Once more, Malcolm takes to the burning roof to keep watch. This is Lake Gruzka, a tiny dot on the man-made maps, but a genuine oasis in this nature-made wilderness. For more than a week, no one's tasted anything better than jerry can water. This is sweeter. It's also the blossom bringer for the profusion of wildflowers that grow round the lake edge. A lake idol like this is rare. So rare that Gibson, the explorer whose name remains with his bones in the desert, died near here, of thirst. The convoy moves on. Eastwards, always eastwards, across an endless plain. Every few days, a rocky butte breaks the drab horizon. Mount Bedell is one of these, and the four boys decide to climb it. That's the way they came, and it's exactly the same ahead. A grasshopper. The desert's heat does strange things to nature's coloring. Stay quiet and watch for a few minutes, and the abundance of living things, even in this wilderness, is soon obvious. A bush cockroach is no match for an army of ants. Pat, on an exploration of her own, finds an emu's nest. The eggs seem fresh enough, so she calls Mike in to drill holes in the ends and save both contents and shells. The whole camp is curious, including Stumpy, the pet lizard, as one emu's egg, as much as a dozen hen's eggs, is whipped up for breakfast. Scrambled emu's egg. Sounds good. Tastes good, too.
Looks all right. Time for salt now? That's pretty good, too. Good, thanks. You wouldn't have him hen's egg, would it?
Everyone agrees. Giles Weather Station, civilization, even if only a remote outpost of it, is not far away. Everyone agrees it's time for a cleanup, and according to the map, there should be some small water holes beside the road.
The water looks clear, doesn't it? Yeah, it looks like there might be a bit of pond life in there, too. Tell you what we could do, we could have a wash. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. How's it play? too bad. See this?
Keith is stumped. He has never seen anything like these before. Believe it or not, they're shellfish. An unusual kind, admittedly. They're called ostracods. Mike doesn't fancy buggy water for shaving and decides to use his battery razor. Ted perseveres with the cold water. Keith decides not to shave at all, but joins the others in a cool wash, a real refresher, almost respectable. Now for the last few miles through the Rawlinson Ranges to Giles. It took months to make special arrangements to win access to the weather station. So the expedition knows that at this one place, if at no other, they're expected. Giles exists as a weather station because Woomera was built as a rocket range hundreds of miles away to the southeast. The rocket launchers needed precise weather information, and the only way to get it was to build a weather station in the desert. Since then, Giles has been so isolated that men posted here expect to stay only 6 months. All except those in charge. At present, that's Alec Crow, posted here for 3 years. Visitors to Giles are a rarity, but the readings go on just the same. A report from here may mean no washing on Monday for a Sydney housewife 2,000 miles away. The procedure begins daily at dawn. On the ground, measurements are made of the temperature, pressure, humidity, and wind speed. But the winds high above are far more important, so a weather balloon is launched. Bob Dingle turns on the hydrogen. Ralph Hodges ties on the radio sonde, a transmitter in a small box. This and a radar reflector are suspended under the balloon to be whisked up into the atmosphere. After the balloon is freed into the cold morning air, it becomes a job for the radio and radar operators. While the radar man tracks the balloon and keeps a constant record of height, direction, and speed, the radio man monitors its radio sonde signals. Together, they build an accurate picture of the speeds, temperatures, water contents, and pressures in the upper air. Within seconds, the balloon fades to a blob of color in the morning blue. In minutes, it will be visible only to the electronic eye. But a stream of information from its telltale radio sonde comes in loud and clear to the dimly lit radio room.
769 millibars, and its readings are 62.1 and 5. Then we jump to 700. You can make that 60.3 and 5. Level 5 is your last humidity.
Good, thanks, John. VL5W, VL5W, this is VL60J on 7, do you read? Over. 5W16J, the odds Tango.
All this is noted and checked, and then passed on to Woomera. From there, it's transmitted again to help weather forecasters across Australia. For these men, weather is more than a topic of conversation. It's a serious business, but it is also the main butt of their humor. Without humor, men would go mad in this isolation. Boredom is banned at Giles, even in the daily menu. 9 men live and work here. With the towering Rawlinson Ranges at their door, there's plenty of scenery and exploration to fill their spare time. When it's not too hot. Or too wet. While the expedition is camped at Giles, the Rawlinsons cower under storm clouds, which bring the first rain for 8 years. The weatherman knew this storm was coming, but that doesn't make it any more comfortable in the expedition's camp on the Giles Station perimeter. For Pat, cooking is a heartbreak. Who can keep a fire alight in this sort of downpour? But rain or no rain, Giles makes it easy for Ted. He has the use of the first-class garage. The damage done on the Gun Barrel Highway is soon put right. And the ramp allows Mike to grease in minutes what would have taken hours of uncomfortable squirming in the desert sand. To keep Giles supplied, a Bristol freighter of the Royal Australian Air Force makes the journey every month from Woomera. Keeping 9 men efficient and free from boredom requires more than just food and drink. So the plane brings books and magazines, sporting gear, fuel for the Giles Station vehicles, a month's supply of weather recording equipment, and cartons, and cartons, and cartons of kitchen supplies. It's a full plane load, but it will barely last until next month's flight. Unloading is a long, hot job, so the plane crew stays at Giles for the night. In the morning, while the Giles men send up their next weather balloon, the airmen prepare for the return flight to Woomera. On this flight, 2 of the Giles men who have ended their tour of duty in the desert will fly out with the plane. And Alec Crow, their boss for the past 6 months, is there to see them off. In the chill desert evenings, or on the rare wet or cold days, there is still plenty to do at Giles. Recreation facilities here are as good as those in the big cities because they're all so handy. Afternoon is usually too hot for a set or two of tennis, but early morning is just right. And there's no trouble with weeds on the surface of this court. One of the regular spectators is Jenny the dingo. Jenny defies authorities who say the Australian wild dog can never be made into a pet. But for all her friendliness, she is still camera shy. Her only master is Alec Crow, who has kept her since she was a pup. For those with time off, there are the Rawlinsons. In these mountains, there is scenery unmatched in Australia. Blazing colors in bewitching canyons which have never echoed the clamor of paying tourists. When Giles discovered these mountains in 1873, he also discovered these falls. He named them Alice Falls, and the name remains today, even though no signpost marks their whereabouts. Alice Falls is the biggest of the few permanent water holes in the Rawlinsons. The weathermen make regular visits here, and on every visit, the rainbow canyons the water has carved through the ageless rock seem spectacularly different. Giles explored these same sunset bluffs and shadowed gorges almost a century ago, looking for water to keep his horses alive. Another of Giles' discoveries, marked on his map as a reliable waterhole, is Glen Cummings Gorge. Today, it is another of the beauty spots in the desert mountains reserved only for the weathermen. This vast, unknown land has always been a magnet for men in search of gold. A handful of the most ambitious have reached it. Even fewer have lived to tell their tale.
It's a big, big country that we live in. It's a big, big country, I say. It's a big, big country that we live in. And the good Lord made it that way. Into the Petermans, mighty mountain peaks, Giles aimed to force a way. A passage he did seek. Piltardie Waterhole and Lassiter's Cave, a land of legends where prospectors came.
Perhaps Lassiter traveled where these five travel now before the desert claimed him, and the truth about his legendary find. Now that rain has fallen, the scene is softened by fresh needles of green. This easier going is a good place to get used to handling the motorbike. It's also a place to see the strange grass trees. Here in the Peterman Ranges east of Giles is one of the only places on Earth where these weird giants grow. They are believed to be the oldest trees in the world. Sooner or later, it had to happen. Forcing the pace over tracks where boulders lie hidden by flour-soft dust mean it's always a risk.
Come on. All right, so get... Ooh, don't look at that tire on the other side. No, neither do I. Got it. Well, Malcolm, yeah, you're going, can you move your car? Go and drive it forward a bit. Oh, you want it to come forward, do you? Yeah, go forward. We'll hold the rope. Hold it tight. Yeah. You right? Yeah? No. Reckon we'll have any chance up in the straight?
The tow bar is badly bent. With every hummock, it smacks on the ground, but it still tows. So until there's a chance to straighten it out, it will do. Ahead is Mount Olga, spectacular, awe-inspiring, and silent in the evening air. Surely these are the most unusual mountains in the world, pink as a blush and shaped by the winds. They tower over the barren plain as if cast like a giant's beads. Morning, and the party is camped at the foot of the mighty rocks. Pat chooses to stay in camp for a day's rest while the four boys set out on a climb. With more ambition than foresight, they decide to tackle what seems to be the highest of the Boulder Mountains. No, it's not a snake. It looks like a snake and moves like one, but Keith knows better. It's only a harmless lizard, and Keith shows the others the tiny legs which make the difference between a snake, which could be deadly, and a lizard you can fondle. Beneath is the desert plain, rolled out like a colorful carpet. On the last upward thrust, the climb becomes hazardous as well as hot. Even the wind has died now, and every step means putting one burning foot in front of the other. The top is near, and the rock has leveled off. From here, it's no more than an easy walk to the summit, so the pace is stepped up. But the 16mm movie camera, which felt light enough at the bottom, now feels like a 75mm cannon. With success comes disappointment. On the top is a cairn, evidence that someone else has been here before. Inside is a notebook, and on its battered pages, 13 still readable names. There's only one thing to do. Add 4 more names to the list. Then, with the cairn rebuilt, set off down again. Ahead, away in the distance, is fabled Ayers Rock. And beyond Ayers Rock, the Trans-Australian halfway point and the town of Fink. Last stop before the sands of the deadly Simpson Desert. Hundreds of tourists may travel as far as the Olgas, but none climb them. Thousands travel to Ayers Rock every year, and everyone climbs it. There's one now, a solitary straggler from a guided tour, tramping down the huge boulder's base. Within hours after pitching camp, it rained. The heaviest rain ever known at Ayers Rock. It pours down, driven by a screaming wind that wrenches at desert gums and turns the crumbling earth into streams of mud thick as paint. Even this weather doesn't stop Ted. For the cattlemen of the district, this rain fills the long empty water holes and fills the record books. 6 inches of rain falls in as many hours to put a sudden end to a drought that has lasted 8 long years. In this weathered old land of small hills and little water, these cascades, which tumble from the mighty rock only once in a decade, are as high as any in the country. In a fit of whimsy, Ted fancies being the first to ride a bike around Ayers Rock as an island. With the water so deep on the track that even the Land Rovers find it tough going, it looks as if Ted won't make it. Usually Maggie's Spring is a few inches of cool, clear water hidden in a quiet canyon. And the road leading to it is usually a wheel-rutted track where a cloud of dust follows every visitor. Now the quiet canyon is a howling wind tunnel, and hissing water has filled the spring to overflowing. The hollow, carved by the wind all the way round Ayers Rock, is now filled with water like a protective moat. Not one tourist in 100,000 has seen such water spilling from Ayers Rock, and no cine cameraman has ever filmed it until now. Rain brings new life to Australia's burning red heart. As the clouds clear, birdsong begins in the least expected place, and you can almost hear the desert bloom. But for some, it has come too late. On again. The going's easier now because the wilderness of the Gibson Desert is behind. But another, more formidable desert lies ahead. And there is half a continent yet to conquer. The passing of Mount Connor, a butte of rock standing wall-sided above the plain, confirms that the halfway mark is only a few miles ahead. But they are a rough, uncomfortable few miles. Halfway, or pretty close. According to the charts, the halfway mark is 133 degrees, 23 minutes east. Only a careful sunshot will make sure that this is the spot. Yes, this is the place, all right. They're halfway. Like the men who built the Gun Barrel Highway, they decide to leave a permanent record of their passing. The date on the blazed tree under the West-East Crossing initials shows 2 months to the day since leaving Steep Point. Next stop, Fink. It has rained here too, and the rain has changed the face of the tiny town. The Fink River is flowing for the first time in 8 years. For the first time ever for most of these children. Mud is fun. And they might not be able to enjoy water like this again for another 8 years. Fink, beside its glistening river, is so quiet it seems the perfect place to rest up for the ordeal of the desert ahead. But the vehicles have to be put into good shape first. New supplies should be waiting in Fink by now, but washouts have held up the famous GAN train on its journey from Alice Springs. There are days to spare. The first job is to straighten out the buckled tow bar. Easy. That's almost got it. Not perfect, but straight enough to do the job. The train still hasn't come, so now there's nothing to do but wait. Now into town to load what is needed for the final test, the Simpson Desert. Fink isn't much to look at. The only store is run by the niece of Ted Colson, the man who, 30 years ago, was first to cross the Simpson Desert. He waited a lifetime for the right season, then made the crossing in 16 days with camels. Now Ted Colson's niece supplies the fuel, 250 gallons of it, so these vehicles can make the first crossing of the Simpson by motor. The actual point of departure into the desert is to be Old Andado Station. Old Andado was abandoned 8 years ago when the sand moved in. The desert winds have stripped every comfort from the derelict buildings. But their framework of waddy tree, the hardest wood known, still stands as firmly today as the day it was built. If it is a good season, stock can still graze this far into the desert, and water still flows from the old wind pump. Ahead lies 300 miles of hard slogging over Simpson sandhills, with no water holes at all.
It's a big, big country that we live in. It's a big, big country, I say. It's a big, big country that we live in. And the good Lord made it that way. The mighty Simpson Desert most barren on earth. Only 30 years ago, by Carlson was crossed first. He did it on camels. We'll go in cars over 1,000 sand hills, how high they are.
The plan of attack for the endless sand ridges was worked out long before the expedition set out. Ted leads the way on the motorbike, picking out the best path, and the two cars follow. Mike first, testing the shifting sand for grip, then Malcolm towing the heavy trailer. Climbing the wind-packed western side of the ridges, the going is rough, but the sand is usually firm. On top, where the wind always blows, the sand is always shifting. The ridges, some 120 feet high, stretch unbroken to the desert's limits. And urged on by the relentless westerlies, they move like a menacing swell on a sun-dried ocean. Their spray, the faint whisper of sand. Even in the firmer troughs, new ripples are building up, robbing balloon tires of their grip. Sand, insubstantial as red flour. The Simpson, the biggest sand ridge desert in the world, is 300 miles across. 300 miles, so forbidding, no one has ever ventured into its heart. In the sweating heat, the expedition moves on, straight across the middle. Even Colson, with his camels, chose a path far to the south on the desert's edge. The vehicles are linked with a solid tow bar for the grind uphill. But all too often, the sand wins. Carrion birds wait expectantly in the sun, while the winch goes into laborious use and the trailer crawls forward like a thirsty man to a waterhole. The eastern side of the ridge is steeper, softer, and easier, but the brakes on the trailer's back wheels have to be locked to stop it jackknifing and overturning. Ridge number 421. 10 days into the desert. Temperature, 94 degrees. And this is midwinter. Ridge 540, almost halfway across, and the time to take more bearings to ensure that no irreplaceable water or fuel is lost by straying from the planned route. Straight across. Ridge 682 and trouble. The sinking sand is too much for the differential on Mal's vehicle, and it has to be fixed right here in the sand drift. Spirits have never been lower. It looks as though the desert has won. To try and lift the gloom, Pat turns on a desert banquet. But even squandering the last of the perishable food doesn't help much. Cake, fruit, and the inevitable cup of tea. The water ration can stretch to this, even if it allows nothing for a wash. While Ted works in appalling conditions on the Rex differential, Mike attacks the Spinifex clumps to smooth the path up the next ridge. The diff has been patched up and is ready to go. But to ease the load, the solid tow bar is wrestled into place again. Between the powdered ridges, there is firmer sand in the bottoms, but it is spiked with Spinifex clumps. These make travel a torture for springs, chassis, and drivers alike. This is where Ted's motorbike scouting is most valuable. He pushes ahead to find the smoothest path, and the rovers follow his twisting wheel tracks. For a time, it works well. So well that the party is tempted into overconfidence. Ridge 817. It'll take hours of hot unloading to put this one right. Amazingly, the Indian Ocean flask is still in one piece. Here, in the loneliest spot in Australia, the five make a typical night's camp. The best protection against the cold of a desert night is a good meal. It may be blisteringly hot during the day, but at night, ice forms in the cooking pots. The scent of bread making, nothing like it to revive appetites jaded by a day of despair. Revived by food and a night's sleep, Keith takes the opportunity to look for more museum specimens. Even in the most barren wilderness, there's still wildlife. There are lizards, and the best way to catch the elusive desert skink is to dig it out of its sandy hiding place. Insects can survive almost anywhere. This is such a fine specimen of a bearded Jew lizard, Keith decides to keep it, in spite of its healthy jaws. The rare rain, which fell in the Simpson too, has brought out the parakelia plant. These fleshy leaves store water like a cactus. Colson's camels quenched their thirst on these, but they can offer no such succor to this expedition. Here, in the very heart of the Simpson, is the most desolate land on Earth. Even the fabled Sahara and Gobi deserts at their worst are not as barren as this. A banded desert snake. Death can strike quickly, or it can come lingeringly with mechanical trouble which can't be fixed. A spring has broken under the sands battered. There is a spare spring on board, but the bush is also broken, and there's no spare for that. Fiberglass tape is the answer. Ted winds it tightly around the shackle pin to build it up to bush size, and then hammers it home. It works, and works well. The party has survived another challenge from the desert. Up and over yet another sand ridge, and an unexpected salt lake. It is dry, but smooth, wide, and exciting. Here's a chance to open the accelerators and have some fun. These people are first to find this salt lake, and probably the first to try a new sport, salt pan skiing. All that's needed is a vehicle, a rope, a piece of tough matting, and a skin that can withstand the sandpaper abrasions. Keith tries it standing up. And tries again. And no water for a wash. This might be fun, but it's wasting time and fuel. The expedition has passed from the Northern Territory into Queensland, but is still a long way from Birdsville. Another shattered differential. No one's laughing. The only parts left to mend this broken diff are the pieces left over from other repair jobs. This time, Ted will have to work a miracle, or the west-east crossing will end here. And the watching eagle knows. Safety is 70 waterless miles away in Birdsville. Here in the Simpson, there is heat and sand, and the ghosts of unknown others claimed forever by the desert. Out on the wastes of the Never Never, that's where the dead men lie. Out where the heat waves dance forever, that's where the dead men lie. That's where the earth's loved sons are keeping endless tryst, not the west wind sweeping. Out where the dead men lie. Where brown summer and death have mated, that's where the dead men lie. Loving with fiery lust unsated, that's where the dead men lie. Out where the grinning skulls bleached whitely, under the salt bush sparkling brightly. Out where the wild dogs chorus nightly, that's where the dead men lie. Mid the heat and the flies and the sand, the miracle has been worked. Ted, knowing 5 lives are the price of failure, has made the differential work. With energy born of relief, he tightens the diff into place. Mobile again, but there are no guarantees for how long. From here to Birdsville, it will be very careful driving. Go easy on that diff, please. Every few miles, the vehicles are checked over. Every few miles, they have to stop and clear out the spinifex seeds, which clog the radiators like a blanket. The water supply is too low to waste any in boiling radiators. Ridge 952, and the differential still holding. Ridge 1047, slow but still going. Ridge 1105 is behind. After 22 fiery days, the desert tires are on a track again. The 300-mile Simpson Desert ordeal is over. Ahead is Birdsville. Birdsville, the end of the Birdsville track, and for most travelers, the end of the road. For 2 Land Rovers and a trailer with the trackless desert crossed, it is the beginning of the road again. It is also the beginning of rain. After so much sun, a dreary place to celebrate the conquest of a waterless desert. But at least there is something better to celebrate with than stale jerry can water. Celebrating in these conditions is a cold, cheerless ritual, especially since everyone knows 1,000 unchallenging miles still lie ahead. Unchallenging, did I say? The downpour stranded the expedition in Birdsville for a week, and when they did leave, the first to break out of the town, this is what they found. Instead of sand, now it's mud which sucks the vehicles down. And there's 300 miles of it. Sunshine, and a better road, and better progress. When it's possible to stay on the road.
It's a big, big country that we live in. It's a big, big country, I say. It's a big, big country that we live in. And the good Lord made it that way. Now into Queensland, on graded roads we go. Onwards to the coast. Make haste, don't go slow. Over 5 months we've been away on a west-east expedition to Byron Bay.
On this custard-like surface, the wide balloon tires have no grip at all. They slip like wet fish on ice. It's impossible to keep straight. Now, Malcolm tows Mike from the ditches instead of Mike towing Malcolm from the sand. At last, Bitumen Road. and their troubles are nearly over. Through the rolling downs and green ranges of Queensland and New South Wales, it's no more than a Sunday drive to Journey's End, the coast. And there it is, Cape Byron. It seems incredible, but these 5 people in 2 vehicles and towing that impossible trailer have succeeded in crossing for the first time the Australian continent at its widest point. The Land Rovers stop where the cliff begins, and the bottle of Indian Ocean water, cherished across 3,000 miles of heat and discomfort, is carried out onto the rocks and into the cool Pacific breeze. No crowd has gathered to see the final quiet ceremony. Only the inquisitive Cape Byron goats and a cruising porpoise witness it. Five months ago, this flask was filled at Steep Point, Australia's most westerly bluff. Now it is returned to the sea, to the Pacific Ocean, at Australia's most easterly shore. A desert, a wilderness, a continent have been conquered.